So yesterday, Samsung took the wraps off of the Galaxy Z Flip, and this phone already has huge implications for the Motorola Razr and for every other foldable phone. And we're going to tell you exactly what we think about it.
One of the biggest things is price. So this is going to be the cheapest foldable available on the market. Samsung is going to sell it for $1380 when it goes on sale Friday. That is $600 less than their Fold from last year, and the Motorola Razr was $1,500.
So that's about $120 less already for the Galaxy Z Flip, and I'm thinking if you want to have a foldable phone in that clamshell design, you're probably going to think that cheaper is a little bit better, especially since these are still over $1,000 each.
Yeah, so I mean, Samsung's doing this because they really want this to be accessible to more people. The Fold was kind of this almost experiment for tech early adopters. If you wanted to shell out $2,000 on this device, that was basically who this was for. When you're priced at sub $1,400, you're getting closer to even iPhone pricing at this point. So it just makes it a lot more affordable for people. But that doesn't mean it's cheap. It's still pretty pricey.
Absolutely. I think that the people who are going to be buying foldable phones, it's hard to see them right now at this stage being the only phone that somebody will use, but I could see somebody saying like, $1,400, maybe I could get this as a backup just to show that I'm like cool and it's sort of a status symbol, which was how Samsung was trying to sell it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just a huge deal for Motorola and the Razr. That was kind of seen as the cheap foldable when they announced that it was going to be $1,500. Everybody was like, wow, this is, significantly cheaper than what the Fold is. But Samsung's really trying to undercut them to just, make sure that people are going to buy the Z Flip and not buy the Razr.
And to be honest, when I look at the specs and when I look at the design, I see a lot more points in the Z Flip's favor. For example, the Z Flip is the first foldable phone in the entire world to use bendable glass, which is sort of like the holy grail of what kind of screen you want in this. Plastic is really prone to damage, it's a lot softer, and it suffers from even like nicks and scrapes from my fingernail. Then you've got foldable glass, which, well, we haven't tested it yet, but it makes the screen a lot smoother, so it diminishes the crease that is in every foldable phone. And in theory, at least, it will also make the phone sturdier too.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting playing with the Flip yesterday and how the crease kind of seemed to go away a little more. You could see it in the light, but it wasn't quite as in your face, I think, as what we've seen with some of the other foldables.
Exactly. And with the Motorola Razr, it's got this really weird thing where when you open it and close it, it's creaky. You can kind of hear it squeak, and it's a little bit unsettling. And I must have opened and closed the Galaxy Z Flip dozens of times yesterday when I tried it out. 3 different units, and it didn't creak or squeak a bit.
One thing we don't know is how long these are really going to last. Samsung said that theirs works for 200,000 folds, which is 5 years. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Motorola, what have they said?
I mean, I asked Motorola many, many times what their folding test was like, which they later told us, and how long it was rated for in their testing, and they did not tell me. So
who knows?
There's one other element about the hinge that I want to bring up, and that's basically on the Razr, you've got these exposed gears that you can see from inside the phone when it's open and also from the top looking down. And although I don't think anything's gotten caught in our review units yet or any of the units that we purchased, I'm a little bit concerned about that. Maybe like a piece of hair or a crumb or a thread getting wound up in those gears and kind of gumming up the works. When you look at the Galaxy Z Flip, it really fixes a lot of the early mistakes that we saw in the original Galaxy Fold. So you have a bezel, you can't get your fingernail in between the screen and that bezel. You've got those little, I call them T-caps, these little plastic bits on the side that kind of help keep any dust and debris from working its way under the screen. And Samsung also says that they've reinforced that hinge area with fibers that will help keep out dust. That's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, but it is a really interesting design difference.
Samsung spent time talking about the hinge yesterday during the keynote, and one of the other interesting things that you find with it is that you can open it and just leave it. So it can sit on your desk like this. You don't have to be holding it. It's, I think they have video conferencing or some uses for that. It'll be interesting to see. But it was interesting to see what that hinge could do versus what we see in the Razr.
That was actually my favorite part of the phone, and I think it's the part that stands out most. And I think that's what's going to put the Razr in trouble as well, is that you can actually use it open versus it snapping all the way open or snapping all the way shut. So there are some interesting orientations too. You know, you open up an app and you can see part of the app on the top, like video conferencing, as you were saying, and you get other on-screen controls on the bottom. It's just a really neat thing, and it shows this much more complete design. And I thought when the Razr first came out, like, oh, this is the most complete design for a foldable phone that I've seen. And this one just tops it for me. I mean, we haven't tested it, that'll happen, but even just looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, that is what we want.
Yeah, another shortcoming in the Razr was it uses kind of less powerful components. The camera has been criticized. I mean, you've spent time with it, so you would know really well what the camera's like.
Yeah, there's one 16 megapixel camera that you use for taking all of your shots, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But on the Z Flip, you have actual usable cameras. There's also a very small 5 megapixel camera on the inside, but you're not really meant to use that. That's just sort of for video conferencing. It's sort of like, well, we got to put something there to try to keep the price down and keep people happy. On the Z Flip, you've got the same 10 megapixel camera that you have on the other Galaxy devices, and you have two 12 megapixel cameras on the back. So, you know, more megapixels doesn't always mean better photography. And in this case, what that second 12 megapixel camera is giving you is wide angle, which is good for both selfies and for getting more of the scene in the shot. And I find that I use this a lot on other phones like the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. And so I'm really happy to see it here. I just think that it gives whoever's buying this a lot more options. So on a phone that's cheaper, you're getting bendable glass, you're getting potentially better cameras, or at least more usable cameras. I think it's looking pretty good for the Z Flip.
Yeah, I mean, we're really going to have to see how durable these are when they finally come out, and because I think that's really the big question for consumers: durability, and what the heck are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Kind of Samsung's first design was basically a tablet, essentially. You know, the front screen didn't seem that useful, you know, and you spent a lot of time with it. Whereas this clamshell, it's kind of making your phone smaller and more pocketable, kind of, although it's still kind of thick.
You know, I think that one thing when we talk about foldables is how using a foldable phone changes how you use your regular phone, just what your relationship is to the device. And with the Galaxy Fold, you know, I thought when it first came out that 4.6-inch external display that Samsung calls the cover display, everything you can do on the inside of the Fold, you can do on the outside. It's just really small. And I'm just like, oh, this isn't going to work. This is too cramped for typing. And then the Motorola Razr came with a 2.7-inch cover display, and you can do even less with it, but you can look at certain things and you can at least tap canned responses and use your voice. But you've got this ridiculous 1.1-inch display, and that's at the diagonal. It looks like a pill shape on the outside of the Galaxy Z Flip, and you can do almost nothing with it. So there aren't any voice controls for it. It's basically an indicator, so you can see things like an alarm or a missed call, or if there's available Wi-Fi. And then there's also like a little tiny viewfinder, which is sort of funny, but it doesn't work very well because if you're holding the phone, even taking a selfie, it's going to be very small, and you don't really know, because of the shape, it's squat and kind of wide, where it's positioned in relation to you. And then I can flip it around and take a picture of you, and you can see yourself in the viewfinder, but then you're looking off to the side. I just don't know if it's really thought through, and that's where I think sort of the biggest potential weakness of the Z Flip is compared to the Motorola Razr, is what do you do with the outside? You're going to be using the inside of the screen fully unbuttoned, I guess, for like 99.9% of everything you're going to do on this phone. It feels like a missed opportunity.
When this goes on sale Friday, it's going to be in a lot more places than what we found the Razr. More carriers are going to carry it, so AT&T and Sprint are going to have it. Verizon's sitting this one out because it has the Razr, but for a lot of people, they'll be able to walk into stores on Friday and actually buy it.
You can also get the Z Flip from Samsung Experience stores, from Samsung.com. On the Razr side, you can go to Motorola.com, Verizon, and select Walmart stores.
Motorola had pre-orders for this, so it was really, really hard to find in stores. I think we called everything in the Bay Area, and only one or two stores actually carried the Razr. The Flip should be in stores right away on Friday, so if you're wanting to buy this, you should be able to walk into an AT&T store or one of the partners and buy it.
Yeah, Samsung did say that there was very limited availability though, so if you are interested in it, just note that.
Those are some of our first thoughts after spending time with these phones.
We're going to spend a lot more time with both of them and compare them against each other. Thanks for watching. I'm Jessica Dalcourt.
I'm Shara Tipkin. Tune to CNET for more coverage.